This episode's topic, do you have to be insane to be creative? With special guest, Carlos Larkin.
Hooray!
We also have our previous guest, Jessica Wall, hanging around.
Yay! Whose episode I have not had a chance to see yet because I was out being humped by one of your dogs.
That's how you know your lengths, Carlos.
Well, there you go.
So
Hey,
Carlos...
My man Beans has some issues. I need to have my man Beans on the show.
So I've known Carlos for quite a long time now.
Yeah.
When we first moved out to Los Angeles, we were doing sketch comedy, and we held an audition. Carlos showed up. It was one of the funniest fucking performers I'd ever met. We shot a film in, what year was that?
2008.
2008, really.
2008.
Called George. It was called George's Intervention. The distributor renamed it to George A. Zombie Intervention.
Which we never really liked.
Closer to the microphone.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There you go.
Which we never really liked.
No, I like George's Intervention.
Me too. I did.
But so check it out. It's a horror comedy. It's available out there. Amazon Prime, I know, streams it.
Brad will probably get a nickel if you watch it. So
No, I won't even.
He
get
said
it.
it's
I won't
a
even
cult
get the
hit,
nickel.
but the only thing
it's become a cult hit.
Okay, but here's the thing: the only thing that I know about the film, other than we made it and we did that.
You were there for
commentary. Well, no. Look, I enjoyed making it. I really did. But
the commentary was
the
funny.
commentary was really fun to make, and the fact that there was a Russian dub of it on YouTube.
Oh yeah,
For ages, like a Russian dub, and I was like fascinated with this film because it was seriously like it was like watching yourself on Russian television, going, "This is what it would be." Maybe Putin has seen this. Maybe it's driven him mad.
Maybe Putin has seen this. I love the idea that Putin watched a zombie comedy starring Carlos and Lynn Lowry with a cameo by Lloyd Kaufman.
If he did, it was for Lynn Lowry.
the base my entire administration over this. It's perfect.
He's
Oh
very
God,
good.
we're the reason Ukraine happened.
Way to go, Brad. Way to go, Carlos.
But yes, so Carlos is one of the funniest
Can I
performers.
say it here? Yes.
He's one of the funniest performers I've ever had the pleasure of working
Oh, you're
with.
too nice, man. Stop.
And all of you, definitely check out
Say
that
bad
film.
things about me, man. It
Well,
makes me feel better. Because that's the mental illness.
Well, I was going to say, Carlos suffers from a few mental illnesses. We've talked before about the unholy trifectas that exist out there. Carlos, you want to tell us what you've been diagnosed with?
Diagnosed with ADHD and also bipolar, but here's the thing. Every time they say these things to me, I've always just said to myself, like the ADHD I get, it's fucking obvious to anybody that's ever met me, man. Because like from the time I was 4 years old, people were looking at me and going, "You like a coke habit?" I mean, it's like,
yeah.
right? They're rare, man. They're rare. And then what they give you to like, if they're like, "Man, are you 4 and you look like you're doing coke? Let's give you Ritalin."
Yeah.
And that's what they gave me at like 3.5, 4, because I got into a fight with I had a lot of issues coming into it.
So by 4 years old, you were already on Ritalin.
I think a lot of this was, you have to understand, because there's a lot of disorders that are working against each other here. There's the ADHD. There's
You guys might hear Adam's dogs right now.
it's okay. They're lovable.
Yeah.
They just want to be best friends with the squirrels.
Oh, well, one of them has David Lee Roth syndrome. Seriously. It's like, "Hey, man, put the mic on me, man. Seriously. Eddie's nothing, man." No. I do voices for a living. If you don't know who I am, again, that's really the Headless Horseman. That's it.
Yeah, Carlos he's done several voices. He's most famous
I've
for
done a few,
World of
but I'm
Warcraft.
lazy as fuck, and that's, again, due to the mental illnesses that make me have like all kinds of issues in terms of dealing with other people.
When you say the bipolar,
Yeah.
one of the things that we struggle with, and it made sense to me when you said that you're bipolar, is you go through these depressive episodes.
Yeah.
Where you can't get motivated to do shit.
Oh, no. You just want to live in the bed.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Yep.
And then you're manic as hell. And part of the mania is the creative brain is firing like crazy. You're having 72,000 ideas a second.
Yeah.
And you want to act on every one of them.
Yeah.
You know? And that's, I mean, obviously something that Adam and I struggle with, being bipolar. But that's always, before I knew I was bipolar, that was always my take of you. It's like Carlos would disappear for
He's going into his cave.
Yeah, he'd go into his cave for 3 months, and then Carlos would show up and be this just creative dynamo, just an explosion of creativity, the likes of which I'd never seen before.
But to get through that, you have to get through the mine of self-loathing and the, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of this comes from, you have to understand, I believe that mental illness is one of those things where it really is environmental and genetic. I can see genetic traces in my folks. They don't watch anything, so they're not going to care if I talk about this. So, I mean, like, my mom, I can see... my mom grew up in Francisco Franco's Spain. Okay, so we're talking about the last real fascist dictatorship in Europe. Now, she grew up in a place that was very small. She was extremely poor. She grew up dominated by the Catholic Church and a family that loathed her. Her childhood home is now basically the storage room for a bar, because that's about the quality of what it's worth. I need to be closer. Okay. No, it's okay. That's okay. See, and this is one of those things. I've been told that before, but it left.
I'm working on the level that
They have these problems every time they record me for the games that I do, because my levels go up and down.
Just imagine the mic is an appendage on the man in the alley about to sell you crack.
Oh, yeah. And those issues that my mother brought to me. See, I always say that we are a bundle of issues that our parents bring to us, both genetically and environmentally, in the way that they respond to things and how they do things. And my mother's upbringing was very hard on her. And by the time she got any peace with that, here we go. We're going to leap off the cliff here. The only reason I'm here in this world is because the Vietnam War happened. Literally.
Okay.
Literally. My mother grew up in Spain, fascist Spain. However, one of the things about fascist Spain was that fascist Spain was friendly to the American government. And fascist Spain allowed the American government to have an air base there. And during the war, my father, who flew with one of the fighter and bomber squadrons that bombed the living shit out of those countries, their forward base, they always had a forward base in the war zone, and then they had a back base where they would retreat to, so they could have R&R, meet with the wives, that kind of thing. And their forward base was in Thailand, but their back base was in Madrid, Spain. And my father, who had a German girlfriend at the time, had the bad luck to get a Catholic girl pregnant in Francisco Franco's Spain, which was like seriously the most Catholic country that has ever been, other than maybe the Vatican. You know? And it's like, other than see his career go down the toilet, he got married and had a wife and a son that he never really cared for. But he brought to the party, and this is where we go deep, is like my dad, who is a damaged human, brought to the party this is weird because we get into some weird shit here. My dad is basically a hill person. Now, I know I've given him all this accreditation as an Air Force officer who... He is a hill person. Seriously, if my family... do you know what yinzers are?
No.
Yinzers? Anybody here? No. Yinzers. Okay. Oh, my God. I'm about to offend all of Western Pennsylvania.
We're actually not very popular.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I have a big family, so they're probably going to hear this. We come from a large Irish Catholic, kind of weirdly Methodist family in the hills of Western PA, in a place called, the biggest town close to where my family is from in Western PA is Benezet. But the real town that they lived in, which is unincorporated, is called Weedville.
Weedville?
Weedville, Pennsylvania. Now, it is,
I love that your origins are in Weedville.
Yeah.
Because
of
I've
who
never,
I am.
Yeah, I've never met a man.
I had about 300 milligrams of weed before we did this show.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't care. It's okay. It's okay. Yeah. I function better. I was about to say, one of the things that I don't do is I don't take any kind of medication for these.
Well, we talk about self-medication.
I do it all the time.
And that's you were one of the first people who popped in my mind about that.
Because I left you in an airport in Atlanta?
Oh, God. Okay, so George's Intervention premiered at Dragon Con in Atlanta, which is this huge convention. It gets like 60,000 people.
It was so much fun.
We had a midnight show. The place was packed.
We sang Journey's
Don't Stop Believing.
Before it became popular again.
Yeah. So there's a tunnel going from one hotel to the other. We're stuck in a line. There's just like 1,000 people in this tunnel waiting to get in. And Carlos and I just start singing Don't Stop Believing, and the entire tunnel picks it up.
So amazing.
It was just a magical moment
of the whole damn trip, other than seeing the movie in a room of people that actually appreciate it.
Yeah. So the next morning, Carlos and I are on the train to get to the airport.
Oh, no. This was in the airport.
It started on the train. It started on the train. Because, here's the thing. You were asleep on the train. Carlos had a thing of banana bread in his lap. I had no idea what was in the banana bread.
Oh, no.
And I was starving.
17 grams of keef.
Yeah, and I was starving. So I start stealing some of Carlos's banana bread. And then we get to the airport, and he gives me more of it. So...
Oh, I didn't know you stole some.
Yeah.
I was wondering because I was like, man, this got small.
So,
dude, you charmed me.
Yes. Well, I had no idea. So we're in the airport, and it's like time for our flight to leave. And there was another friend of ours there, and he was like, shouldn't you be boarding your flight? And I was like, it's fine, man. It's fine. I'm going to be okay. Because at that point, time had no meaning.
I know, because
whatsoever.
by that point where you were talking to him, I had left.
Yeah, Carlos was already on the plane. So I missed the flight. And I go up to the desk, and I'm like, yeah, I think my plane left. And they were like, yeah, it left. And I was like, that's cool. Do you think there's another one you could get me on? And they're like, well, it's going to be, probably 8 hours. And I was like, that's fine. And so I go over, and I just lay down, and I take a nap. Uh-huh. And then at some point, the director of the film, J.T. Seaton, comes over. He's a tall guy in a cowboy hat. Oh, my God. And he comes.
Tell me this part.
Yeah, so he comes over, and he shakes me awake. And he's like, what are you doing? I thought your flight left at 8 a.m. And I was like, it's cool, man. I'm going to be on another one sometime. I'll get home. Don't worry about me.
Okay, yeah. I cut to me landing in Los Angeles and getting a text from your wife going, what the hell did you give to my husband?
Yeah.
Banana bread for life.
I tend to overdo when I do, and it's just who I am.
Wasn't it? Did he say it was like salvia or something? Like,
salvia! Oh, salvia is a trip, man. First time I did salvia, I took me being me, I went to there were only 2 head shops in LA. And they were both branded the exact same. I can't remember the name because I'm stoned. Dementia.
Okay.
Dementia.
Okay, perfect name.
They had two. They had two shops, one on Ventura and one on Laurel. And I went to the one on Laurel, which was up by like where they had the bank shootout years ago, which I drove through for an audition.
Oh, the famous
Yeah, I was
North
like
Hollywood.
driving to an audition, and I'm like, "What the fuck is all these cops going around here?" And then my girlfriend like later was like, "You drove through the damn stupid shootout, you idiot!"
The famous North Hollywood shootout
Right,
that
yes.
the movie Heat was based on.
Yes, was it really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where that came
See,
from,
I
yeah.
agreed with you before I even knew what the answer was.
That's because you're high.
Well, it's no. Seriously, it's that imposter syndrome. I had a best friend in high school who I will not name because I do not want them going, "Oh, that was me," and then they'll feel bad. But he literally answered everything you asked him with "yeah," comma, and then whatever, because it gave him that moment to. And I don't know what I was talking
No, I
about.
used to do that when I was young.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's just, like-
See, I just did it.
Yeah.
You know, I was going to tell you something in that my family from Western Pennsylvania, the hillbillies, which they really are. Yinzers.
Oh, I forgot that there was a
Yinzers. The reason they're called that is because there's a lingual affectation in I guess I don't know, it's lingual or language affectation.
Lingual's good.
Lingual's good. Okay. Lingual affectation in Western Pennsylvania where people will, instead of like the Southern one that you and I are familiar with, we both grew up in the South. Y'all, you all, the one that they use is yins, you-uns, you
know,
ones,
my grandmother used to
yins,
say that.
yinzers. Yinzers. Is she from up north?
No, she was from
Appalachians?
Yeah, Appalachians.
Okay, then it's the same thing. And that's what I was going to explain, is that people often think that hillbillies are simply from Kentucky, and we're not. No, and we're not. Another hillbilly affectation. There's a certain group of Scotch-Irish in this world who, God bless them, and Dutch, kind of Dutch Germanic, who don't fucking get along with anyone. Anyone.
Yeah.
Anyone. There's a reason the bitch's name was Scarlett O'Hara. Okay? It's that Scotch-Irish...
I always say that about East Tennessee is because there's the way that I sum up the entire culture of East Tennessee is, you think you're better than me?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I dated a girl from East Tennessee for almost a decade. And
Oh, God, I'm sorry.
Oh, no. She's one of the best people I've ever known. In fact, if anything, if she's out there listening to this, dear God, I'm so sorry for who I was. No. I don't mean that as a joke. I mean that as I'm so sorry for who I was. Because I was a 20-something-year-old, really damaged fucking individual who didn't understand anything about the world. And I'm 50. What the fuck year is this? 54 now. I'll be 55 this year. I still don't know jack shit. I know jack shit. I know
The difference
my
is that
individual
now
experience.
You know you don't know jack shit.
Well, and I think that's the problem
yeah.
with mental illness, is that we all call it mental illness, but that's the baseline for every single one of us. Every single human that's out there listening right now is mentally ill. Whatever you call it. You call it one thing or the other. I have a variety of them. The most troubling is not even the ADHD or the bipolar disorder. I can deal with not being able to pay attention. I can deal with not being able to manage my moods. Mm-hmm. But what I can't deal with, and what the problem is, and I also think it's the thing that gives me the skill to do what I am good at doing, is the narcissistic disorder that comes with it.
Yeah. So that's your trifecta.
That's it right there.
narcissistic.
I mean, the narcissistic disorder is the worst of the trio.
And that's fascinating because part of mania that we talk about a lot with bipolar also is what they call grandiosity, where you temporarily become the center of the universe. So if you have that plus narcissistic personality disorder, you must be fucking insufferable, Carlos.
Oh, no. Seriously. I tell my wife all the time, why you don't just kill me, cut off my head and my hands, and just leave my body on a sidewalk?
Yeah.
I don't know. Because I am insufferable. I'm not easy to live with. I'm not easy to deal with. I'm not easy to be around. My whole life, people are like, you're funny. You know, funny masks a lot of anger. It just does.
The funniest people are fucked up
John
in
Cleese.
so many ways. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm talking about you, John. Hashtag John Cleese. Yeah, see this motherfucker. I love you, but you're the angriest dick on the planet.
Well, you know, talking about British comedians, Stephen Fry is openly bipolar.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, he talks about that a lot.
And he's angry, but he is the modern day Oscar Wilde.
Oh, completely.
He is the modern day Oscar Wilde. He has a squishiness to him that overrides the dickheadedness
by the way,
comes from being a genius.
Oscar Wilde has my favorite last words, if anyone. As he was dying.
I know it, and
Yeah.
I'll let you have
He
it
said-
because it's your joke. It's your joke. I'm going to let you have the punchline.
He said, either that wallpaper goes or I do. Yep. And then he died. My other favorite one is Voltaire. So as Voltaire was getting the last rites.
I think I know this one.
So the priest says, do you renounce Satan and all of his works? And Voltaire says, my man, now is not the time to be making enemies.
That is the,
And then he died.
yeah. And I agree 100%. I'm sorry for thumping this to anybody
That's
who's...
okay, brother. I'm playing. We got it. I'm working on the fly.
So to get us back to
I'm
topic.
the worst guest you'll ever have in terms of noise.
So to get us back to topic, and Carlos and I completely monopolized the mic, so we'll throw this to Adam and Jess over here.
Narcissism disorder. See what happens?
The idea, like Carlos had suggested, the topic of this episode: do you have to be insane to be creative?
See, now you made me the subject of it, and I'm like really happy, and I'm like,
But that's a good point, because what is creativity? Creativity is thinking differently than most people think.
Yeah.
Right?
oh yeah,
And what is mental illness? Your brain is working differently.
to survive.
Right. Now, I don't think everyone who's creative necessarily has a mental illness.
No, but I think that everybody's mental illness comes from a need to survive. A need to survive.
That's a very good way to put it.
Because that's all we are. We are an evolving species. We think of ourselves as this species that is completely and 100% evolved. We are humans. We will conquer everything. 50,000 years from now, we will look exactly the same. No.
We're really just self-aware monkeys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really self-aware. But you know, the funny thing is, here's where we get into those weird things. I'm not a religious person. But I do, it's funny because I don't think atheism is right either. It's just there's something here, and what it is may not be what we think it is. There's that overriding.
Something's happening here.
Well,
What it is
there's that
ain't exactly
overriding.
clear.
There's that. Remember that experiment they did? Well,
bust
no.
us off,
It's okay. It's okay. I'm just narcissistically just hogging this fucking thing.
Yeah.
But remember that when they said that what we're living in is a simulation, and I know everybody's going, "Oh yeah, he's crazy talking about simulation." No, it's just mathematically
Plausible.
plausible. That, in fact, not only plausible, but
Likely.
probable.
Yeah.
That this is just somebody's simulation. Whose, we don't know. Call it a god, call it whatever you want. I call it Zeus because I like the classical gods because they're fallible. They're fucked up.
Yeah.
There's nothing right about them. They're powerful, but they're idiots. And I think that whoever created this, yeah, even the monotheistic Abrahamic God of all three faiths, oh yeah, we are going to get in trouble on this one. Yeah, no, that's just, frankly, that started with a bunch of people trying to keep somebody from fucking their goats. And that's really, you look at a star, you go, he says don't do it.
Pete keeps fucking her goats. How are we going to stop him? I got an
Japheth.
idea. Let's tell him that
Japheth.
Let's tell Japheth that there's a guy in the sky who says don't fuck our goats.
Exactly. either Japheth, Ham, Shem. I don't know which one of sons of Noah it was, or Abraham. I don't really care. It just, all I know is that most religion teaches you to hate other people for not being part of that religion. And that even comes down to people that I respect. People like Buddhists and Hindus. It's like,
same thing.
Right, you go for 5 minutes and you go, oh, I love Buddhism and I love Hinduism. And then you read the news and it's like, why are you killing Muslims?
Yeah.
I don't like that either. Don't do that.
Well, you get a lot of the evangelical stuff that we get here.
It's bullshit.
I used to
it's
work,
mental illness.
Yeah, I used to work in India, and I was in Bangalore, and there was a
Yeah.
temple there that some of the guys I worked with were complaining about because one of the ways, I forget which god it was a temple to, but one of the ways that you would worship that god is you would go and you would slide money in a crack in the wall. And every night, the priest would go and open a brick at the bottom, gather all the money, and then get in their sports car and drive home.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah.
But that's what
We've really gone off on a tangent.
Oh,
now.
no. But see, I honestly, because my mother's mental illnesses are 100% due to her upbringing within the Catholic Church, which
Yeah.
is nothing more than the Roman Empire figured out how to keep itself alive. The emperor became the pope. The armies became the Swiss guards. The country still stayed Rome. And for still to this day, fucking people are kneeling to Rome. The Senate is just the cardinals. What do you think it all is? It's just Rome. It's the Roman Empire hiding behind what Justinian taught them.
Well, when you talk about that in relation to mental health, the cliche is Catholic guilt.
Right, exactly.
And-
Jewish guilt, or even
Yeah.
Muslim guilt, or Hindu guilt, or Buddhist guilt.
It's all about guilt. It's
guilt.
all about feeling shitty about yourself
Right.
just for existing.
Right.
Yeah.
And see, this is where I think the religions may have something. And that's why mental illness is part of it. Because I'm stoned, folks. Watch this. It's because I do believe there is a hell. But I think this is it. I know, I'm not kidding. And
I get it. I was rewatching.
There's a way out of this, man.
I was rewatching the series Hannibal, and there was a line that one of the characters delivered that stuck in my head, and it was, "The optimist believes that we are living in the best possible world.
Mm-hmm.
The pessimist fears that we are."
Well, George Bernard Shaw. You know the quote that I'm talking about, the optimism and the pessimism quote?
Yeah.
I'm sure you do because you're a writer. So go ahead, launch it.
Oh, I can't remember it. verbatim.
The optimist builds the airplane. The pessimist, he makes the parachute.
Yeah. You need it. You need it.
You need the balance.
It's like, and that's the thing. My mother is the complete and utter product of her Catholic guilt upbringing. She was brought up in a fascist regime. Well, and like I said, that's part of my narcissism disorder, going back to because of the ADHD going all over the place. The
I love that this
fascist
episode
regime
has been ADHD driven too.
I hope so. Because it's the biggest problem of the lot.
Yeah.
But it also makes me willing to accept almost anything that comes in my purview in terms of I'm gullible as fuck. Because it's just like, oh, that's shiny, that's shiny, that's shiny. But in terms of the narcissism disorder, my grandmother was and not a good friend, but like an ancillary friend of a lady called Pilar Franco, who was the sister of the dictator of Spain. My grandmother's physician of record when she had a doctor was the brother of King Juan Carlos, after whom I am named. My actual name is Juan Carlos, not Carlos. It's actually Juan Carlos. But outside of Spain, it just seems like a weird affectation, if that sounds... Well, I mean, it really does. Because what's weird is all my Yinzer cousins do call me Juan Carlos, but they do it with a Yinzer accent in that it's Juan Carlos. Which is almost
Carlos?
which is almost exactly like the Southern people that tried to say it, which is funny to me.
Juan Carlos?
Juan Carlos. But my grandmother, she dated a lot of policemen who were high up in rank. My mother tells a story when she was a teenager and her purse was stolen. And her mother, she runs home. She tells her mother it was stolen on the subway. Her mother calls her boyfriend. Her boyfriend has the subway stopped. The people are found. They're brought off. They caught that thing. And I'm always like, I hadn't thought about it. And it wasn't until just recently that I started to think about it. And I'll get to that in a second because ADHD. And that's because when I was a child, I was born in Spain. I wasn't born here. I was born in Madrid. And it was still the time of Franco. And my grandmother, like my mother would take me to a park to hang out and walk around or whatever. But we would pass this arcade on the way home. And there was a Popeye ride that I really liked. And if there was a line for it, I didn't have to wait. Not once. And I thought that was because I was just the cutest fucking kid in Madrid. But it wasn't. It was due to my grandmother's fascist connections, and they were
So you
fucking
feel that's
terrified.
the narcissistic personality.
Oh, absolutely, because I was a child. I was a baby. I was a toddler, and what was being imprinted on me was that you're the only human being that matters.
Wow.
You're the only human being that matters. If your mother won't stand up for you, I'll stand up for you. My grandmother, who would take me back, my mother would like stop it because like the Popeye ride would be going and like the guy would be afraid and then he would like, other kids can ride. And my mother, who is like, because she was abused the way she was as a child, has a different personality than my grandmother and a different set of disorders. She was, being the decent human that she is, would go, no, don't do that. You got to come home. And then my grandmother would, no, fuck those kids. Bring me back to the goddamn arcade.
Wow.
And I would be back on the ride.
Which just reinforces.
Right,
that
because
you're the center
I
of the
wanted
universe.
it. I wanted it.
Yeah.
Period. If I wanted it, I got it. And then I was brought to this country where I was raised in a town that hated me for being Spanish. I mean, there are going to be people that are going to be there. They're going to be in the thread below from my hometown and going, oh, no, it's not that bad. There's a lot of good people there. It's like everywhere else. There's not all bad people. There's not all good people. But where I'm from, in the South, kids, is Matt Gates's district. If you know Matt Gates's name, then you know why I'm insane.
Well, so
Because they hated me. They hated me.
yeah. Which also has to kind of reinforce the narcissistic personality disorder because now you're the center of a persecution.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, which is the best thing for a narcissist.
Yeah.
I mean, Donald Trump loves it. That's why I hated him so much. People are always like, you hated like an insane level, man. You like went crazy on your Facebook, man. People unfriended me left and right. They're like, oh my God, he's gone insane. He says things that nobody can say. And it's like, the reason I hated him so much is because I saw so much of myself in fucking him.
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing like seeing somebody you loathe be like you.
And then realize that that's
you.
you. Yeah.
Right. And that narcissism disorder, it's like the worst thing in the world to have in the face of that.
Yeah. I felt the same way with Stalin. No, I'm sorry. It was just the mustache.
I know.
Really.
This is not hashtag comedy tonight, kids. This is hashtag narcissism.
So
ADHD, fucked up shit, whatever, wine.
So talking about creativity,
Right.
and mental illness. Let's bring that over to our folks that we've excluded for the last few minutes.
Sorry.
Only 1 or 2 minutes. You're good.
Sorry.
You're
I'm
good.
so
You're good.
sorry.
No. That's why you're the guest.
This can be edited, right?
We're not editing.
No.
this. Yeah, we don't edit shit.
It's okay. I got the Irish, but not the Catholic. So I'll.
Oh, there you
yeah,
go. Okay,
you guys
there
can handle the guilt. It'll be fine.
Well, so as someone who does visual arts,
Oh boy.
like I was just telling you earlier, like I'm in awe of the way that you think of your projects.
Thank you.
The way they come to you.
But I didn't hear that part.
I do giant abstract paintings and everything, every other project you can think
cool,
of.
though.
Yeah, thank you.
She has a whole series of lamps.
I
that
do.
she
I'm
wants to
obsessed
make.
with lamps that I want to make right now. I'm
And they're
super
badass.
happy.
Like it's not just like a lamp.
Seriously, oh my God, I'm in trouble because my wife loves lamps.
Oh, cool! I'll make you a custom lamp. There you go.
I know. That's why I'm in trouble.
But like, do you feel that your thought process has to be askew from most people?
Oh yeah, definitely. Are you kidding me? How I grew up? Yes, absolutely, 1000%. Chicago. Ooh.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
God, yeah. Midwest
yeah.
and kind of urban.
Yeah.
like, at the same time.
No, I was actually in the west suburbs. So I grew up in very wealthy west suburb where I was not the wealthy kid. My dad was a contractor and my mom was a therapist up until she decided to have 6 kids. So we were on food stamps. There was a portion of my life where we didn't have electricity for the last 2 months when I was going to school. They can't turn off the heat in the winter, so you don't pay your heat bill. Really got to know the feeling of hunger. That was fun. But the creativity, I think, came from an overactive imagination of like, well, we don't have water, but we could take a shower outside in the rain. And like, you can make it fun. Plus, I'm the oldest of 6 kids. So the thought process of, if I make this into a game or if I make this into something that is creative or enjoyable, then, the 5-year-old that's wandering around behind me won't think that this is a terrible thing. So it's also being aware of those people around you and getting very comfortable in that imagination space.
That's an amazing gift to have within your creativity.
Yeah, I think so.
To have that like magnanimity to give it to others. Where
Well, I also convinced my younger siblings that carrying bricks was fun. So I don't know if they would totally always agree with you.
but you know what?
But-
But there's. I mean, carrying bricks, and we don't want to like get into comparisons, but that movie with what's his name, Life is Wonderful or Beautiful. Life is Beautiful.
Roberto.
Yeah, where it's like simply him trying to. Well, and I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie or anything, but it's a wonderful. You know it, obviously. It's it's about a guy in Auschwitz. I think it is Auschwitz, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where he's trying to make it just for his son so that it's not a horrible experience.
Right.
He simply tries to make it into a funny game of just little things. And I see what you're saying, because you have to survive.
Please like, subscribe, and share it on social media. If you have someone you think may need to hear it, we encourage you to share it with them and to start your own conversation about mental health.
Oh, yes, mental illness and
And
fucking
creativity in
abuse
general.
and abuse and creativity and how they're all interwoven. With
I
each other.
really believe they are interwoven. I think our imaginations, those of us who have strong imaginations, and we were talking about this off camera a little bit when you were talking about the 10% that they don't have one? Or?
Oh yeah, 10% of the population doesn't have an inner monologue.
So strange.
That's scary.
Yeah, like
that's kind of scary.
How do they think? That's what boggles my mind. I can't picture how they think of things.
How are
if
you
don't
nut
have it.
nuts if you don't talk to yourself?
Yeah,
Exactly.
I would wonder. Okay, so
I mean,
I have a
there's
few-
not at least 2 of you in there.
right, I have a couple of questions with that. So one, what is the overlap of people with an inner monologue and people who are mentally ill? And what is the overlap of people who have an inner monologue and are involved in the creative industry?
Okay, here's the thing. I'm going to go with everybody's mentally ill. No, seriously. And I don't mean that as a joke or a flippant. I mean, Everybody is. We're a product of a fucked up environment. We're just trying to survive. We were talking about a project that I had written earlier that you and I, it was about cave people. And I've always been fascinated by cave people because our primitive impulses are what drive us. And I honestly believe that there were people in the caves who were just as mentally ill as the rest of us, but who all they were thinking was like, okay, I might get some meat close to the hoof because I ain't going to kill a mastodon. Let's be honest. I mean, if I'm in the cave, that's why when we were talking about creativity, I honestly think that creativity is a mental illness that was driven by an ancient need to, I can't hunt. These people are going to kill me.
I like that. That fits a lot of
if I don't paint on
Sounds
the
like
wall,
the caveman version of like jocks and nerds.
no, seriously, if I don't paint on the wall, these motherfuckers are going to kill me. And right now, I get to eat me some mastodon tail, and you know what? Tail, yay!
Did you watch Kunk on Earth?
No, I have
Oh my
not
God,
seen
so
it, but it's supposed to be really amazing.
There's this great moment where she's looking at cave paintings, and she's asking some historian. She's like, "Has anyone tried to adapt these into film?" like say like a Fast and the Furious movie, but about cattle.
Yeah, I can see that. Well, I mean, but that's all it is. It's just a means of survival. Creativity, I honestly believe that. There are those of us who, let's face it, come on. In any society that is willing to just admit that their only goal is survival, yeah, some of us are useless, and I'm one of them.
Think of the first guy who came up with the idea of like, hey guys, instead of going out and hunting these animals, what if we just like put them in a pen?
That's creativity.
Yeah,
exactly. And that's where but at the same time, we're a species, like I've said a million times, that somewhere in the ancient past, someone said, hey, you guys, all of you. And I think I wrote a sketch about this for our short-lived sketch show about the guy that was just saying to everybody, you know what? You guys are going to build me a 400-foot building. It's going to be 400 feet tall, like really high. And it's going to be really wide at the bottom, really narrow at the top. And inside, it's going to have one room, only one room, for me, the dead me, and all my stuff. And while you build that for the next 30 years, I'm going to wear a solid gold hat and tell you what to do. And everybody around him said, okay. That's the species we are.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Because somebody came up with the idea of, we'll build a giant building and dedicate it to me.
You know what?
Somebody went, okay, good enough. I'm crazy enough to go with this.
And you know what? If that pharaoh existed today, he'd be running an alpha male channel on YouTube.
Probably.
True.
Yeah.
True. Absolutely.
Here's how to get your peasants to build a pyramid.
Absolutely.
What's up, bros?
Oh my God.
It's pyramid time.
And that is the evolution of our species, where you find people like that are lesser valued.
Hopefully. But I think it's also interesting how, so say everyone has mental illness, right? But how you deal with it is so different across the whole spectrum.
Oh, yeah.
You have people who, religion's the answer. Oh, doing this is the answer. Repressing or, fully leaning into it and exploring every part of it is the answer. And how you navigate and find those different people in your life is always like, interesting. So you've talked to yourself in your head.
Right.
That's a good thing. Okay, we can be friends. Cool.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Well, it's that thing of once, they always say that thing about alcoholics that you have to realize you're an alcoholic before you can get any help. And that's true. But you have to realize you're broken before you can start gluing those parts back together.
Absolutely.
I mean,
And I think a lot of people have a hard time, especially men.
Oh, God, yeah.
With admitting that.
In our society? Oh, God, yeah.
There was a...
Machismo?
Yeah, there was this group I joined, I don't know, I think when I had kids or something.
Since the kids are gone now?
Oh, yeah, they
They've
don't.
been eaten by a giant slug.
They're out there somewhere. Adam and I think that they'll make their way home at some point.
Maybe.
No,
We gave them a map.
it's It had one of these names like Order of Man or some shit like that. But anyway, like it popped up in my feed the other day, and there was a guy who was like, "Hey, I think I might have depression and anxiety." And he went to talk about it. And every single fucking comment below it was like, "Bro, you just need to hit the gym."
No.
And you need to make sure you're eating more meat and blah blah blah. And it was and people being so anti-therapy and anti-psychiatry. And
We can be gentle and still be men.
yeah, exactly. And we can admit that
we can be
have,
gentle and still be what we perceive to be the protector of our species.
right? But we can also
Which
we can also
is
admit
bullshit in a lot of ways too.
we can also admit that we have something wrong and that
yeah.
we need help in fixing it.
Well, the problem with us has always been, and I know my wife agrees with me on this, so I'm interested in another feminine perspective in that. I've always told her, I think the key problem is that women were always meant to rule the roost in that they made the decisions governing the actual home in a cave or anything like that because it was to protect the young. Whereas if you were kicked outside and just meant to hunt mammoth, you were one of us. So our only real function is either get food or kill whoever's trying to kill the young. That's really our only function. Like the male lion, we're useless other than that. The females really run the pride in a lion's den. We always go, oh, the king of the jungle. No such fucking thing. He's a lazy asshole who sleeps under a tree and fucks everybody he wants.
Just like any other kind
Right.
of king.
He's David Lee Roth. I mean, that's all he is. He's there with the hair and does what he does. But then when he gets old, man, they kick his ass out and he dies starving out in the wilderness because a younger, more pretty David Lee Roth shows up and kicks his ass out of the pen. Yeah. And that's what happens. And in the wild, yeah, that happened. It doesn't happen now because we kind of control politics and economy and things like that, where we've kind of made ourselves the rulers of the roost when we're not psychologically adept at it. We're just not. Look at the countries that are run by women, and you will look at countries that are run well. Look at countries that are run by men, and you will look at countries that are run by hostility and some sort of grudge.
And do you think that that's one of the reasons why we have a hard time admitting this? Is it's almost like we're trying to cover up what we perceive as a weakness?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The worst thing, and especially one of our culture, American males. And I say that because I got the benefit of seeing it from both the European perspective and the American perspective. And American males, on the whole, Arnold was a godsend to this culture because he had the exact same mental need to make himself so huge that everyone was afraid of him. And that's what America has been since the time of Britain. But I mean, look at our beginnings. Our beginnings are we bended the knee to a French culture that was still ruled by a king to get their money to fight our American Revolution. We kicked the British's ass because they were busy fighting the French over there for most of their history. And then when the French begged us to help their monarchy, we basically went,
He's putting up the middle finger.
yep, and told them to go fuck themselves, while we became a culture based on chattel slavery and the subjugation of women and any other person of color. It was only the white male that mattered. And that it contributes to a continuing mental illness in our culture of toxic masculinity.
Yeah, there's
there's
a specific American idea of what a man can be.
Absolutely.
And like you were saying, like trying to be so big that everybody's afraid of us, right? What's one of the most influential men as far as American masculinity goes? John Wayne.
Absolutely.
John Wayne's real name was Marion. Mm-hmm. He changed it to John Wayne because he didn't want a feminine name.
No. And he was a virulent racist.
Virulent
He
racist.
really was.
But also, when everyone else, when Clark Gable, when Jimmy Stewart, when all these other actors were going to fight in World War II, John Wayne didn't go fight. He stayed here and made movies.
Nor
about
did
it.
Ronald Reagan,
Yeah.
who led the first strike in 1960 of SAG of SAG at the time,
Yeah.
against the movie producers. Guess who was the president who led that strike of SAG?
Ronald
That was
Reagan
your-
in the 60s was a virulent socialist.
well, not until about 64 or so when he saw can I say dirty things on this show? How
Fuck
dirty
yeah.
can I get? How wrong can I get? All right.
Be as much of a cunt as you want, Carlos.
All right.
That's how wrong.
I used to do documentaries. And when I did documentaries, I worked with a lot of people from old Hollywood. And
Please tell me this is the Nancy Reagan story.
this is indeed the Nancy Reagan story.
All right.
In that Ronald Reagan was married to a woman named Jane Wyman. You might remember her from an 80s kind of soap opera. What was that thing called? It was the winery one. There was Dallas. There was the spinoff of
Falcon
Dallas.
Crest?
Falcon Crest. Yeah. She was the matriarch of that. That was Ronald Reagan's ex-wife, Jane Wyman. He left her for Nancy Reagan, who I can't remember her maiden name. But Nancy had a reputation in Hollywood in that, how can I say this?
You just say it. You can be as dirty as you want.
Apparently, the woman gave the best blowjob that Hollywood has ever seen. I mean, seriously. Like, Marilyn's were apparently, like, off the scale. But, like, Nancy's were like, no, seriously, Zeus had come and blessed you. And so Ron had one of those and apparently said, hey, fuck this family, and left. So then, and I've always said this is one of those things about mental illness. Guilt will make you do a shitload of weird things. And I think that's what it drove Ronald Reagan to do, is become like, okay, well, no. God must forgive me for loving this goddamn head. You know? I'm sorry.
It's a good
to
story.
all who are listening. If you're a Nancy Reagan, well, to most who are listening.
Oh, they've stopped listening by now.
To some. Yeah, no, they've stopped. My career's over.
We try to be politically neutral on this show, but honestly, from my experience growing up in a conservative family in the South, I don't think conservative people talk about mental health or are interested.
No, they definitely
So,
don't.
They don't. No, they don't.
No, I haven't seen it once.
Yeah. Those are the ones most likely to be like, you know what? You need to go to church and you need to hit the gym and, go to the firing range.
Well,
on
if it's
Saturdays.
hurting you, then something must hurt you worse so you can get it out of you.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know.
it must be a character flaw.
Yeah,
in you.
absolutely. And it's not all about that.
Because we were founded by Puritans.
Well,
So-
I was slagging on my father earlier, but my father's upbringing was really fucked up, man. He was one of 12. They weren't smart enough to keep their coal mine. But they managed to keep, 1,700 acres or whatever they had up in the mountains. And they had a farm, and I don't think they ever got over the loss of the coal mine, as well as a house they lost to other folks. But the reason I'm going back this far in my history is because of something that one time you and I had a discussion online one time because I had upset you.
I don't
Yeah,
remember.
you don't remember it, but it was one of those things where it was early. I think it was early in 45's president. I won't say his name again. 45's presidency, where I was really angry, and I was really angry at the South, and I said something about Sherman and Tennessee, and I remember you came back at me with not everybody in fucking Tennessee was, And there was a part of me, but I didn't know this at the time, but I want to go back to that weird strain of mental illness. My great grandfather came back messed up because I didn't know this until I went on Ancestry.com, which you should go look up. Go look up Ancestry.
And Ancestry.com, you should sponsor our show.
You should, because I found this out on Ancestry.com. My great grandfather, I think that's as many. It's either 3 or 4. But he came from the Midwest.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, no.
Already a red
Illinois.
flag.
Actually,
Oh,
Illinois.
no.
Illinois. No. But here's the thing. He the reason I knew he came from Illinois is he followed Grant's army from Illinois. He had started in Illinois as part of Grant's army, and then he marched with Grant's army, and then found himself in the middle of fucking Shiloh, and with 15,000 other Union troops being killed around him, managed to survive that, go down to the siege at Vicksburg, and then march in Sherman's army after Vicksburg fell. He didn't go back home. He just joined Sherman's Corps Army and marched from Vicksburg down through Atlanta, through the burning, and didn't stop until he found himself in North Carolina right at the very end of the war, where he managed to lose an arm in a battle. But then wound up to be, and I'm really proud of this, in a weird kind of gothic, The Cure sort of way, in that he wound up the one-armed local undertaker. In the little mountain town where my father grew up, and he would show up on the horseback dray with the coffin in one arm and like the top hat and the whole thing, and I'm like, oh dude, you were like the coolest goth before it was ever cool. I mean, seriously. Hill people.
See, I just got a one-handed story in my family history.
Oh, really? No,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
cool though.
You got a whole arm missing. I just got a hand missing.
I mean, it was just, it was just the luck of the bullet.
There you go.
Well, how did the one hand happen?
Okay, so my middle name is MacNeil, and
Okay.
it's Scottish. So back in the day in Scotland, there were two clans, the O'Neills and the MacNeils, and they both wanted this island to build a castle on. And being a bunch of drunk Scotsmen, which I'm sure they were, they're like, let's not fight. Let's have a boat race. Whoever puts their hand on the island first gets the island. I'm sure all the wives were in the background being like, yes, don't kill each other. Good job. So they all get in their boats. And the MacNeils are falling behind. And the chieftain of the MacNeils puts his arm on the side of the boat, whips out his claymore, cuts off his hand, and throws his hand on shore to win this island where they built a castle called Kissimmel Castle. And it's still there to this day.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a bloody hand on our coat of arms.
Oh, absolutely. That's so Scottish.
I
I was
know.
gonna say, that's simultaneously the most badass and most redneck thing ever.
Yep.
I've always said that my favorite thing about the Scotch-Irish is that even the Romans, I mean, you talk about the fucking Romans.
The Romans were like, we're going to build a wall
Right.
to stay away from those people.
You know why? Because first they tried to build them an aqueduct, and then they tried to build them a flush toilet. And you know what the Scotch-Irish did? They kicked that shit over and said, fuck you bastard. We'll fucking shit in a field before we'll let you run water through here, you fucking bastard.
Yep. So I'm Irish, Scottish, and Italian. So it's
there you
it's a
go.
really fun mix.
Oh, yeah, no. Mediterranean and Celtic, that's like...
Yeah, my dad's Irish and Italian. Ooh, you got a lot of fun mental illness
you
there.
love life and simultaneously hate being made to live it.
Yeah, basically. And then you have 5 younger siblings, and it's just copy and paste all the way
You know
down.
what? Here's the thing. We are aware. We are self-aware. Every single one of us, every single one of you out there is self-aware. Or you're an NPC, and then, you know what? I'm sorry, I'm going to run over you just like GTA 5. But every one of you is self-aware. And the beautiful thing about that is that we're just a chemical reaction that looked out at a friend of mine who is simultaneously one of the weirdest and one of the wisest people I've ever known, told me a dream he had one time, and I thought to myself, oh my God, if I could define the universe, that would be it. And it was just that he dreamt that he was at the center of a giant globe, just inside, like a Dyson sphere. And inside were all these green lights that were shining down on him in the center. And every so often, a one of those lights would turn around and it would just disappear. And he thought to himself, and I mean, one of those things, once again, we're a narcissistic species. But in his dream, he thought to himself, oh my God, I'm God. And all of them, they're just the universe looking at me, and it's just me trying to figure myself out. And I thought to myself, there's a wisdom in that the math now pointing towards the multiverse, which we all saw in a movie that won an Oscar, so we all like that. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, which is a great movie. But I honestly believe that the multiverse isn't some weird thing. The multiverse is right in front of you. It's every person you meet. Every person is their own goddamn universe, because all we are is one perspective on everything. Every single one of us. And our madness is nothing more than a reaction to what we're seeing. And if we're insane, then our entire universe is insane, because that's us.
Well, you have to wonder, like you were saying, it's a survival mechanism is how you look
Right.
at it. I've wondered for a while, was there an evolutionary purpose for some of these disorders?
Absolutely.
Like you think of us as primitive man. Like, was there a benefit to being bipolar? Was there a benefit to having ADHD during those periods?
Being hyperfixated on, yes, I like
On
berries, and that's
survival.
all I want to eat for
Right.
the next 4 months.
Or if I flake this rock a certain way, it'll make a spear point.
Yeah.
So I have to sit here for 8 days. And go. Because I mean, you got to remember, we're not talking about us. We're talking about Neanderthal man, and though Neanderthal, or humankind. I shouldn't say man. And
Homo erectus.
That's another. Well, I mean, Homo in general.
Yeah.
Because that's all of us. They're finding that all these species that we call Homo erectus, Neanderthalis,
They all
sapien. They not only did they interbreed, but they all learned from one another. They took from one another. We are one species. We are one. And I say this about life. It's one of the reasons. And I mean, people make fun of vegans all the time. They make fun, and I'm not quite a vegan. I still like cheese a lot.
Oh, cheese is really good.
That's the problem. That's
so
the biggest
dangerous.
problem. And
Don't-
but I
don't
look
get
at
me
the
wrong.
calves, and it's just
Don't get me wrong. I love meat, but I could go vegetarian before I could vegan just because of cheese.
that's the biggest problem for me. It's the biggest problem right now. Although there is a brand of of American cheese that has finally managed to make the Kraft thing I can live without. Sorry, Kraft. Although they have their new vegan cheese.
Ooh.
True. Yeah, no, true. Kraft.
This episode has
is
been sponsored by Kraft Singles.
Please, man, send me some samples. We'll do a review, and I'll talk about how I'm crazy for your cheese. If you send me cheese, because I'm buyable. I'm extremely buyable.
We ate at a restaurant, and they did, what was that, almond ricotta?
Almond ricotta, yeah.
And you could not tell the difference. That was amazing.
That's so cool. But see, that's the thing. We're getting there. And I said this to my mother. My mother is ultra-Catholic because of the way she was raised. So I tend not to argue the religion thing with her, because it's just, oh my God, I'm just going to make her mad. And she's old. I don't want to deal with this. Because, she doesn't need to deal with it either. But one of the things, did I lose the thread here? Where was I going?
I don't know.
It was about compassion, wasn't it?
I think so.
It could have been.
It was about
Yeah,
compassion.
let's
and
say that.
and that's what
Let's
it was
say that.
about. It was that. I was telling her one time, I said,
In case you forgot, Carlos is very high.
and also has ADHD to this is going to be the cut that they use all the time.
That's going to be our new intro.
No, I'll do the horseman laugh at the end. Just
Oh, okay.
well, then you got one.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say this. Can I say this?
Huh?
When are you going to put this out?
Oh, this will probably be in like a month.
Will you bleep this?
Huh?
Will you bleep
if,
this?
If we need to.
Okay. Kill one of my characters. He rides a horse without a head.
The horse doesn't.
I'm not saying which. No, I have an NDA, man. Lousy power robber barons. This is strike time, folks.
Compassion in your mother.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
No problem.
The compassion part. My mother taught me very young that every other being in this universe has a point of view. And it wasn't until my mother and I were talking about it later when I said to her, do you not get what I'm... Because she still eats meat and whatnot. And I'm like, do you not get what you're telling me right here? Because, Genesis very...
Pigs are incredibly intelligent animals.
Absolutely.
But it's their bad luck they're made of bacon. I'm sorry.
But here's the thing, man. Here's the thing.
If you were made of bacon, Carlos...
But where does that come
You wouldn't be leaving this house tonight.
But that's exactly it. Where does that come into our disorders? Where does that come into our disorders?
Where does
that
everything...
narcissism that says, I prefer the universe this way. Against you don't. And whether you have or do not have the power to resist me, whether it's human or whether it's animal, if it is a sentient point of view, is it not worth at least looking at and saying, perhaps I could be more compassionate? And if you are a believer in the Abrahamic,
we're definitely getting into a side tangent.
But if
because there is ethical meat consumption.
That's one of those things about self-existence that I think is part of what drives our mental illness, is that the need to survive is paramount. It's paramount. Yeah. And at what point does it become simply survival? And at what point does it become something that causes a problem for other people's survival? At what point does it become an extreme? Oh, we need to wrap? Oh, no worries. This has been
the Carlos Larkin Hour.
Oh, dear God. I apologize. I'm so sorry.
No. This has been a fascinating discussion, even where we got off on tangents. The fact that you do have ADHD. I was kind of joking earlier, but I kind of like that this episode has been indicative of that.
Oh, yeah. I'm all over the place, man.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult to stay on one topic.
All the time.
Yeah.
Who are you?
Fred. Fred Flintstone.
I'm Fred. I'm Fred Flintstone. And this is Cletus Snowman. I'm going to Smoking the Bandit now because it's the only thing I have in my childhood. When I'm old and losing my mind, I will be Bandit.
Do you know what song is a fucking banger?
Which one?
Eastbound and Down.
See, I was going to go, you heard the legend of Jesse James.
Oh, that's a good one too.
John Henry just mentioned.
Any of that, why am I blanking on his name? Who's the
Jerry
artist?
Reed.
Yeah,
man.
Jerry Reed. Any Jerry Reed stuff.
It's one of those things that I have like a weird, I was like a page on Evening Shade. And I got to hang out with Jerry Reed, Burt Reynolds, and Ossie Davis while eating Philadelphia cream cheese Hormel nacho dip. One of the weirdest experiences of my life, folks. And I'm sure Marielle Henner will remember, Mary Lou Henner. I forgot her name, but she doesn't remember. She doesn't forget anything because she has an eidetic memory. So she'll remember it. So ask Mary Lou Henner. She'll remember the night that I was there eating
if I ever run into
nacho dip with Ossie Davis, Jerry Reed. And it was a weird experience because it's Bandit, Snowman, Ossie Davis, and me, and really good nacho dip.
So closing out here, any advice you'd give anyone who's dealing with ADHD or narcissistic personality disorder?
Or any disorder. Mm-hmm. Embrace it. It's who you are. And what you should do is find a way to limit how it negatively impacts those around you. But in terms of having it, don't be ashamed of it. It's who you are. It's what you are. And all any of us can do is, whether we're damaged, broken, whatever we want to call it, is limit the negative impact that it has on other people and find ways to make it have a positive impact, because there are ways to do that. You can take your narcissism and make it into an art that benefits people. You can take your negative experiences and make it into a story that helps people avoid those things. You can help heal someone who's broken, and we're all broken, every single one of us. There's not anybody out there that's not. That's the problem with mental illness, is that we go, oh, the mentally ill. Yeah, it's fucking everybody.
You know, we're all broken in some way.
Right.
And I think the beauty of us lies within those broken places.
Right.
Those
Well,
jagged
that's
edges and those
it's that
tears.
Japanese art of taking broken pottery. Have you ever seen that? Where
Yeah.
the Japanese take Yoko Ono actually has a brilliant tea set that my wife and I were gifted as she has like a limited edition art set. If you ever find one, get it, because the Japanese take broken pottery and they mend them with gold in the cracks, because they believe the cracks are part of the story of the piece.
I love that as a metaphor.
Right, and that's all
have to
we
find
are.
our
Our
gold.
mental illnesses are those little gold pieces in the cracks of who we are.
Yeah.
And they can be made to be gold if you go for the positive experience of whatever those things are, rather than if it angers you and hurts you, find a way to make somebody laugh about that. Robin Williams did that. One of the best gifts I was ever given was that Robin Williams apparently was a huge, I'm about to cry, Warcraft fan. And I don't need anything else in my career other than the idea that maybe, just maybe, someday when he was playing the damn game, Robin Williams maybe had like one of those little moments where you're like an argument with me.
Yeah.
And I gave him like 2 minutes of happiness for all the millions that he gave me.
Yeah.
I'll take that. That's what art is, man. That's all it is.
Yeah.
All Van Gogh was trying to get you to do was look at him. That's why he painted so many of himself. Mm-hmm. Just look at him for who he was. And that's all any damaged person is trying to do, man.
We just want people to understand.
Who we are.
Yeah.
Who we are. We're broken. Sometimes we're funny. Sometimes we cry. Sometimes we make music. If we're lucky, we're Mick Jagger twice.
Yeah.
But that's it. That's all it is. And if you're lucky, you're Paul McCartney like 3 times. Dear God.
Well, Carlos, thanks for joining us tonight. I love
Nah, my pleasure, man. This was awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting me talk like a madman.
Jessica, thanks for hanging out.
Absolutely.
And I'm so sorry I overran everything.
Oh, you didn't.
No, I did.
No, I got all new stories. This is a good thing. This is my favorite thing. Hanging out.
from an insane person.
No, you haven't met my siblings.
I get it.
Yeah, you're good. As long as there's good conversations, and sharing stories. And I think sharing stories is so important because you give handholds to other people that didn't know that they needed them.
Well, that's how we all know that we're sharing the same experience and
Yeah.
that we're all broken. We're all damaged.
Yeah.
We're just trying to survive, Please don't hurt us.
And for those of you listening, please subscribe, leave us a voice message on Spotify, give us a review, email us, try to get Adam to speak. We love you all.